So today's agenda, we're going to quickly go through the Teams application. So Teams calling is a full PBX telephone system, but it's actually accessed through the Teams app and your mobile app. But the Teams app is something that we use to virtually run our entire business through. So I want to take you quickly through that before we get into going through the Teams calling. And Thomas will be actually taking us through a Teams calling demo to show you how it all works. And then I'll take you through the Teams pricing. It's very, very competitive, just like any other sort of voice over IP telephone system. It's very, very competitively priced. And then just the next steps if you want to learn any more information about it. So without further ado, I'll kick off with talking about the Teams app. So what I'm going to do is share my other screen, which you can see Thomas there. So basically this, when you can see this is the Microsoft Teams application. So this is a dummy account. We use a dummy account called Halstead Manufacturing. And as you can see here, I'll start off the top left-hand side here. You've got your activity. That basically is a bell, which when you get notified of something, you'll see a little red number come up there when you got notifications. Your chat, which is you can chat with anybody within your business. And that's really good. It saves a lot of emails going backwards and forwards between people within your company. And the chat can be done via a channel or via a group of people. So you'll see all these teams down here, hence it gets its name: the marketing team, the finance team, customers, sales, operations, and you can chat within that team. So you can see here, I've got the chat window open here. This is general. So if you've got a general channel, a general team, you can actually just create a chat here, and again, it saves a lot of emails being sent backwards and forwards when you can quickly chat. Our company runs on chat from a technical support, so we have different teams: technical support, the accounts, sales, etc., and we all have our own little chats within those. And then you can have your general chat, which is with everybody. So it's a fantastic tool. This is the bit here we've actually got the teams, and basically this is where you keep all your files and information. So the back end of this is actually SharePoint. So SharePoint is where the information is stored, but you access it. You can access it through SharePoint, but you can also access it through Teams. So you can see here within this customers and then general, you've got actual the files here. You can see we've got some files there, draft files there, but you can also see how you can actually add within that other applications. So you can add whiteboards, PDFs, a whole lot of other applications within that particular team. And so we have our sales team here, and keep your brochures, etc., and leads. So it's where you keep all your files for your business and where you organize everything. So a lot of you may be using this at the moment, and a lot of people that take up Teams calling is because they're using Teams. And of course, then you have this button here, which is where you actually make the phone calls from. So I'll get Thomas in a minute to actually demo that. But your whole phone system is now run through that. The big news of recent times, the new feature of Teams calling, is when we can actually now bring up pop-ups within Teams calling. So if someone calls up and you've got information in either HubSpot or Salesforce, we can actually now build a pop-up which will autofill some of that information. So when a call comes in, you can actually pop up the window, which then you can feed data in directly into your HubSpot or Salesforce. So that's a new feature that's come out. So we get an API into that. It has to be built, but it can be built, which is a great feature. But without further ado, what I might do is hand over to you, Thomas, and you can take us through Teams calling.
I'll take over and do a bit of a demo.
All right, sounds good.
No worries. So I'll just share my screen instead.
Yep.
Make sure everyone can see. All right, perfect. So Teams, really straightforward, easy to use phone system, right? So as Gav said, we've got our calls tab. You're mostly going to live in here. Each end user will have their own sort of direct dial number within Teams. Now, how we use this, we can have people, like you may advertise this direct number, you may not. People can call out from this number, or we can set it to, like a mainline number or something like that. You don't actually have to advertise these numbers. Now, from here, we can also make and receive calls. I'll just do a quick demo of receiving first. So if I receive a direct call on my line, we'll see a little pop-up window, bottom right corner. So if you normally you'd see maybe the number that's coming up. I'm just doing an anonymous one to begin with. Answer call down in the bottom right there. From here, simple options. Main things you might want to do. So in some scenarios, you can record your call. If you do press record, everyone will, there will be a notification that plays. So people will get a warning that the call is being recorded. Actually, I'm just going to make sure that you guys can hear the sound for this. Just let me know if anything comes through. Can you hear anything through here?
Can do, Thomas.
Yep. All right, perfect. So when we hit record, so we can start a recording if you need to. We also have like automated ways to record calls if need be, just through third-party services.
This call is being recorded.
There's a recording, which is like a paid service. For an individual call, if you record, it does save in the end user's personal OneDrive. So not something you do for all calls, but if you ever needed to.
This call is no longer being recorded.
Let me get from there, and you'll get a transcription as well. Other features we might want to use in here, you may need to pop a call on hold. When a call does go on hold, you can set up custom hold music that plays here. By default, it'll just play some nice hold music. From here, we can maybe chat to one of our colleagues, get whatever information we need. In another scenario, you may need to consult with someone internally as well. So we can consult with one of our colleagues first and maybe see, I'll have a chat to myself. We can bring up a chat window to see if, hey, are you free to take this call? And then if they are, we can just hit transfer. That'll pass the call right over to that end user. You can also call from that window as well. So consultant transfer, and we can pop in person and make a call to them through Teams. Same idea. As you're chatting, once you finish that call, you can just hit transfer, send the call right through to them. Other ones you may want to look at are parking calls. So if then there may be scenarios where maybe there's a couple calls coming in, you can't answer all of them, but you'd prefer to actually have a chat to them first and then pop them on hold. You can park your call. From here, you can get a code, and it will also show up in your Teams that call is parked. If you can then say, Gavin, I've got a call parked on code 10. He can then go pick it up from his. Pretty straightforward. By default, they'll sit there. I think it's about 300 seconds is the default maximum that they'll sit and wait, but we can adjust all of those things. I'll just bring that call back and get a new one through. Now, so that was a direct call. We may also, generally speaking, you're probably not going to get too many direct calls. A lot of time for Teams calling, we'll set up things like an IVR system or hunt groups for like a mainline number that's coming in. So in a scenario where we're calling in on a mainline, we would then have perhaps like different call queues. So there might be, say, a sales line or an accounts line, and we can then see. I'm just going to make a quick test call from my mobile coming in on a test line. We should hopefully see. We can see an example of a test line coming in. We can name these whatever we need to or want to. So at the moment, it's just a test queue. So if I press 1 for accounts, I can have this come up and show accounts, sales, etc. The amount of time it rings for, we can also obviously like control exactly how all this is functioning. So there's a lot of flexibility in the way that the phone system can be set up. If you are interested, we can pretty much make whatever you want or need happen, however complicated it might be or simple. It could be as simple as just calling through to a single line and passing out to staff members. It could be a lot more complicated with multiple levels of calling queues, passing through into more messages, whatever you need, we can do it. So from here, similar idea, we can make calls in and out. So that's receiving calls. To make a call, it's really as simple as chucking in a number. It'll auto pop up to Phil. The area code is going to be based on sort of where you're located, which again, we will control and set for you. So if you're in Sydney, it'll generally pre-fill a 612. In Victoria, I'm going to get a 613 pre-filled. When I'm then calling, it's just as simple as hitting call, and then that will call through to whatever number you might be dialing out to.
You have dialed is not in service.
Now, from here as well, we can also set up. We can also set up like permissions to call like on behalf of people and delegate access. So we'll go through a couple of settings up here that we might want to look at. So going forward, we can assign people to make and receive calls on our behalf if you need to. So like if I'm going to be away or need to do something, I can redirect my calls to people. I can assign someone to have access to my calls if we need to. So I can say, this person can make, receive, change my settings, and that'll then pass right through to them. Other important settings in here, our call settings. So with the in a scenario where we've got like an IVR where we might be a part of multiple call queues, we can set things like being able to toggle in and out of a call queue. So if I'm generally just part of the sales team, but maybe sometimes I need to give the general inquiries line a bit of a hand. Maybe they're a little bit busy today. Super easy. I can normally be toggled out of that line, and if someone calls general inquiries, I'm not going to see it. But if I feel like I need to give them a hand for a bit, I can jump in here, toggle right in. That'll then add me to those call queues. We can also set a lot of important settings for like our call answering. The call answering rules will be for our direct line. So if someone calls me directly, this is what's going to happen. So by default, it's generally going to be, it just rings me. If I don't answer, say after 20 seconds, it's going to go to a voicemail system. Super easy. When someone calls you directly, leaves a voicemail, it's just going to get transcribed and emailed through to you. So it's all connecting to your Office 365 account. But some common things you might want to do. You might want to, if you're away or don't want to take direct calls, you can forward it directly to a voicemail. You can pass it to another number. A good scenario might be you might pass it to your mainline number. So I don't really want to receive direct calls. If someone calls me, let's pass it to the main queue. and they can go through the IVR messages from there. We can also set things like call groups. So I can create a group of staff members. So my colleagues who, if you call me, maybe I don't really take too many direct calls. I want it to instead call through to Thomas and Brad. And I can set this up in a scenario where it calls, all of those people in that call group at once, or maybe it calls them in an order, so I can prioritize who's getting what calls. You may or may not use this section. It really depends on how much you're advertising and marking out your own numbers, but it's up to you. Other ones you can maybe send it to voicemail, do nothing. You can then configure your voicemail. There's a lot of little things you can really do in here. So you can either record a greeting. You can also use just like a text to speech meeting. It's pretty good nowadays. It sounds a lot better than most other phone systems. Sounds very normal. It's also based on the language we select, so it sounds a little bit more Australian, a little bit more normal to us. Other things, say if someone gets through to your voicemail, you might transfer the call to someone else. You could play a greeting. A really good one is letting the caller choose to either record a message or just to be transferred to someone else. So you might have a colleague here that you transfer to, or you might even say, if someone calls me and we'll give them an option to, I don't know, pass it through to the sales queue or pass it through to the main IVR message. All of these are customizable, so we can set and help you work through whatever you need. We can create call queues and call groups. So if you wanted to pass it through to a specific 5 staff members, we can create that, set it up, and so that you can pass it through to exactly who you need to. Really good if you have different sections of lines. So I'll cancel that. Now also, this is the one that Gavin was talking about earlier, where we can open apps in browser. So this is something that, there is a bit of config needed, but it can be very useful for things like, say, NetSuite. We've got some people using it in a scenario where it'll pull through the phone number of the person calling in, and then the app that's set up in the back end will then pop out a browser going to that URL and that page for that number. Super handy to get more information. Those are the main things you'll probably look at in the settings. Obviously, you can change your ringtones and things like that. I generally have my direct calls set to something different, so that I know it's a call specifically for me and not a call that's on the main line. So I can listen out for what I'm going to expect. Another quick one is contacts. So generally in Teams, it doesn't unfortunately yet pull through all your contacts from Outlook. It is something that they are working on and doing. So in preview versions of the applications, like public preview, where they're a little bit more ahead, it does pull through those sorts of things. So we do get all your contacts from Outlook auto pulling in, but at the moment, got to add who's important to you. So we can add a contact in here. Simple as just adding a contact. If you search for a name of someone that does exist in your contacts or company already, it will pull through. If not, we'll get a no match, and then you can simply add and put whatever information you might need in here. Add to your contacts. Well, already in here. From there, you can look at things like your speed dial. So these are maybe my contacts that I'm using all the time. People that I'm chatting to every other day. Auto pops up in here. We can call right from here. We can do audio calls. We can call maybe their mobile or their other numbers. We can add people to our speed dial just from here as well. So you can hit the contact, hit add, pops up in our speed dial down here. So contacts, super easy. We can create groups in here, so you can organize your contacts. Yeah, I think that covers most of it. So contacts, phones, styling it out nice and simple, and the primary settings. If anyone does have any specific questions or any like specific use case scenarios that they're trying to accomplish, always happy if you want to reach out and let us know. If something might be possible or how something might work, we can always go over that. I guess while we're on this screen as well, any call history that you might have. So if you're answering calls from the main line, they're going to pop in here. So you'll see a history of all your calls, direct calls, and any shared lines that you might have with people.
Fantastic,
nice.
Thomas.
And simple.
Does anyone have any questions for Thomas at the moment? If you don't, you can type them through. There's actually a chat window within the webinar there, and if you want to write a question, we can read that out and answer it now.
Yeah, and there's even more than like there's a lot more in like the back side of Teams as far as like how we can configure lines and get whatever you need working in Teams. But as far as like what the end user is going to experience, that covers most of it. But we will obviously work with you to design whatever you might need.
The other thing, Thomas, is we just got a question from Costa. How does it integrate with current phone systems?
It's designed to be, I guess, its own phone
Standalone.
system. It's like a standalone VoIP. If there is something you are interested in, I guess, integrating it with, it might depend on that specific environment. But the idea is that instead of using like a traditional hand phone, you're moving to using Teams through your computer. So you can either obviously run. We've got our Teams desktop app. You've got Teams, in your web browser, which you can access on any computer, and obviously, on your phone, you can run the app from there. So it's sort of its own phone system. But if you do need to integrate it with something, it'll obviously depend on that specific case.
And Thomas, too, I think it's important with the mobile phone app that it's so easy to transfer the calls from your PC to your mobile app. So, for example, we could be having this conversation right now, but I have to run off to the car. I can simply transfer it over to my mobile, and using the application on my phone, and you wouldn't know. It's just transparent to go from one to the other, which is really, really handy. And again, you can just use the Teams app from your mobile phone, so you don't have to be stuck to your computer. You can just answer the call, depending on how you want it configured, just answer the call directly from your mobile phone and be talking using Teams calling.
Yeah, a very, very flexible phone system where you can sort of use it from anywhere, basically.
Yep. Yeah, it's fantastic. Thanks, Thomas, for that. I might just take now, just go back and share that, just to talk basically about pricing. So there's only a couple elements to the pricing. First of all, you need a specific Microsoft license, an extra license that they're called Microsoft Teams Voice licenses. So they're $11 per user per month. So if you've got a business standard or a business premium or business basic license, you need to add this one on top. If you've actually got an E5, which very few people do, it's actually included in that license, but that's because that license is about $70 odd. But if you've got a business standard, basic, premium, you add this license to it per user, which is $11. And then basically there's a couple of different, you can do it per user or bundled pricing option. That generally works out more favorably to go to the bundled pricing option. So I'll give an example. If there's 20 people within a company, what we would do is allocate 4 or 5 what they call SIP trunks, and they're charged around $50 per SIP trunk. And so if you've got 20 people, we would allocate 5 zip trunks. They're $50 each, so that'd be $250 per month to run your Teams calling, and that includes all your calls. So it's a bundled price. You're not worrying about, if someone makes a phone call to a mobile, it's going to cost extra. So that's just one-off price. So pretty much it's $250 per month, and that's going to be your cost. So it's easy to budget for that. As I said, there is a per user option, and that sort of becomes economical if there's only a handful of users. It can work out cheaper if there's a small quantity of users doing it. And the only other fee really is a setup fee, which includes porting your existing numbers over to the Teams calling, and we do some training and the configuration, which Thomas has gone through today. Is just what we do in the back end and consulting with you to make sure that it's working or set up the way you want it to be set up. So they're the different elements of the pricing. As I said, it's very competitive, and we've been using it now for 3 years. It's a rock solid platform. Call quality is fantastic. It doesn't require an enormous amount of bandwidth. So as long, if you've got an NBN connection, you're going to be, all good. The great news is if internet goes out, because you can use it on your mobile apps, you use the mobile data to run it as well. So it's got that built-in redundancy for it. Does anyone else have any questions?
And if you do think of any, you can always reach out and email us afterwards.
Yeah. So
happy to chat.
Yeah. So as far as the next steps are concerned, it really is, if you've got any further questions, or you'd like to get a formal quote or discuss anything with Thomas or myself or any of the ones about anyone in our team about it, please just holler, and we'll do our best to answer any questions you've got and set you up. The other important thing is it can be all set up within a couple of days. It's really easy for us to set it up. As far as handsets, and so you can see that we're both using headsets. We recommend Jabra because they work really, really well, but really any headset will work with it. There are handsets available. There's also conference. We haven't talked about that, but you can set up conference rooms with Teams calling and specific bits of hardware that you can run your conferences through. So if you want to talk, we've got that need, please come and talk to us, and we'll go through that with you. Outside that, Thomas, thank you so much for doing the demo, and thanks everybody for joining. We will be sending out a recording of this to everybody, and it will be on our website. So yeah, thank you all for attending.